When I see an overachiever overachieve, that's what football's about. Because most of us who played were told by somebody you're not good enough. And they do everything in their power to tell you why you're going to fail. And if you believe them, you become one of them. They're very good recruiters.
Don't tell me to go on. I'll go on, I'm ready to go on. Why don't you take your butt out of here if you're going to be disrespectful?
I apologize, I didn't mean to.
Well, you were.
For an opponent to be equal and to raise their level of play in such a fashion that they win. And that's how this thing works. That in fact you respect the opponent, and he's not the hammer, and he's not the freaking nail. Okay? He's the opponent.
All right, so when you ask me those kind of questions, it really pisses me off.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! I'm not a kid! Write something about me!
Well, I think it's ridiculous that you're even asking me that question.
No one's got to stand in the way! No way!
Joined with us tonight, John Cooper, who's an FSU fan. He also runs fifthquarter.co, that's .co, and David Shane Hunter, who is a Clemson fan. Fellas, let's talk about where your team's at. I want to start with FSU first, because that's kind of an unusual situation with FSU being this part of the season 0-2. Obviously, the other games missed were due to the hurricane. But let's talk about FSU for a minute and what shape they're in. John, you have the floor.
All right. Well, I think on it is friendship and loyalty versus winning. So in 2014, FSU was close to being a 7-5 and 8-14 with all those comebacks they had. The only reason that separated them from being a mediocre team was a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Knew there was flaws in the coaching. And at that point, we knew something was brewing in Clemson, South Carolina with Dabo Swinney. And we saw in 2014 the possibility of Clemson overpassing Florida State. And right now the distance is starting to separate. Might not be the X's and O's mastermind that Jimbo is. Dabo does a way better job of surrounding himself with people that are experts in what they coach.
Well, let's hope so anyways. And this is coming from an Alabama fan's perspective. That's when he becomes head coach for University of Alabama when Nick Saban leaves. Okay, go ahead. I love that complete dead silence.
So I think the big thing is Jimbo has his friends and people that he's loyal to. He has Rick Trickett, who he's had relationships at West Virginia with, and Auburn. He has Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly's spot was at Georgia Tech for the longest time. He was linebackers. When Pruitt left, he overtook that position. I think some changes need to be made from Jimbo, or things are going to go really sour for the next couple of years. And if you look at the schedule, there's not a for sure winnable game on there for FSU.
No, we were talking about that earlier. It's not completely out of the question for them to go into the Louisville game at 0-5. Why don't we get David to tell us about?
Yeah, David, you have a better connection, so you're gonna win this conversation right now.
Woohoo!
David, I'm going to let you jump in just for a minute and go ahead and let's talk where Clemson's at right now, because Clemson's playing on a completely different level.
Well, it boils down, to the coach, and we were able to bring in Brent Venables, which I want to personally thank West Virginia for that. They got rid of Kevin Steele. But the smart thing that Dabo did is when he brought in Chad Morris, he also brought in two former Clemson players, and Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott. So they're able to learn Chad Morris's system and kind of make it better, make it more not so predictable. They kind of went Chad Morris's route against Boston College, but overall it's just bringing in the right players. I mean, the classes are not on Alabama's level, but what they do is they get the right players.
No, wait a minute now. As far as classes not on Alabama's level, though, they beat Alabama last year. I mean, and this is coming from an Alabama fan.
Well, I get that. What I'm saying is getting the right pieces so you can plug and play. Where Alabama's just getting 25 4- and 5-star players every year. Dabo's going out getting guys. He does get 4- and 5-star guys, but he also gets these 3-star guys. Vic Beasley was a 3-star tight end. You know what I mean? Hunter Renfrow was an unranked quarterback out of high school.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? So
I got to ask the question though. Do you think, and this is not, try to be as objective as humanly possible, but do you think that now that Urban Meyer is kind of suffering what he's going through this season at Ohio State, that Dabo Swinney is now setting up to surpass him as far as the active coach, obviously under Nick Saban right now, but he beat Nick Saban last year.
Well, they both have a win against Saban in big games.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the 3 titles is which I think keeps Urban above Dabo. It's hard to say, well, we'll put Dabo second when you got Urban there sitting with 3 titles. I do have Dabo above Jimbo, which at this point is rightfully so. His 3-1 playoff record puts him above Jimbo Fisher.
And look, maybe I still am a little bit sour about the way that he left the Florida program when he left. I mean, he just left an absolute just garbage fire times 12.
But that's the nature of the business. I mean, had he, he left, I think it was 8-5. Had he came back and, went 7-6, they would have been putting him on the hot seat anyway. So I mean, it's a business. I don't blame him. I go to Ohio.
Yeah, but you have to kind of admit that is a little bit of a pussy move, though. Think about it.
It's a business, so I mean, it's if you can get out and you can go to a state where you're the top program and you can recruit like that, and why not? I mean, that's probably where you want to be more so than Florida. I mean, I don't know. I mean, outside they really had no really reason to leave.
Hey, old Sharky's got him coached up down there this year, man.
Florida's a great recruiting state, but it's also a very competitive state. You've really essentially got 5 big-time programs there battling it out in the recruiting trails, and it's not the easiest place to come out on top in recruiting.
Well, it doesn't help that you got other states coming. I mean, you look at all the Floridian players that we have. Deion Kane, Rory McLeod.
Oh, yeah, you definitely got to dip into Florida.
You have to. You really do, particularly in, down here in the South in the SEC. I mean, it's all about good quarterbacking. You like it or not. If you have a team that's doing very well, that has a somewhat mediocre quarterback, you're going to find yourself in some really uncomfortable situations throughout the course of the season.
But we were talking about Florida State. The question is, who are they going to get to replace Kelly? Because if they don't, Jimbo's going to base his future on it, kind of like Les Miles did when he brought in Cam Cameron. As we're going to find out with Kirby Smart at Georgia, what Chaney's going to do. You know what I mean? Their futures are going to be based on that opposite side of the football.
Absolutely. John, are you still with us?
I am still with you. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes, yes. You said you're better. Loud and clear. Yes.
Okay.
John, go ahead.
I'd like to hit back on the Wake Forest moment.
Let's do it.
From 2006 to 2011, Wake Forest was a game of horrors for Florida State. They beat us 3 out of those 5 years. I remember the 2006, the infamous 30-0, when that was the turning point when Jeff Bowden basically got fired. I remember being one of the few just waiting in the rain and just seeing the demolishment. And it seems like it's like a perfect recipe for something to happen like that again. Getting Kelly gone.
Well, all right. Fellas, do we have anything else to add?
I would assume we would be talking about the big game this weekend with the Clemson at Virginia Tech.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. We got some notes on that. And how do you feel about it as a Clemson fan?
I mean, I think we match up well with them. I'm just interested to see, because as much as people talk about Clemson's offense and how they did against Boston College, it's, where does the Virginia Tech offense stand? I mean, the best team defense they have faced is Old Dominion, ranked 97th.
Yeah, it's definite that they have not played anybody yet. So really, their rankings offensively, defensively doesn't really mean anything. They played West Virginia, and that's pretty much it.
I give them that. West Virginia are ranked 2 in offense, but if their Virginia Tech's defense ranks 28th, their offense ranks 14th. I understand the defensive ranking, but still, when your offense is ranked 14th and you play the best defense you've played is ranked 97th in Old Dominion, it's like, what are they going to do once they have to block our D line? How is Josh Jackson? How is he going to perform under pressure the entire game? Can he find somebody besides Cam Phillips to throw the football to?
That sounds like a top-tier Big 12 team when you spit them stats out like that.
Clemson still going to Virginia Tech and winning, that will make me a believer that Clemson is definitely bound for the playoffs.
The sad of the week. 0-2. El estado de la semana.
There's no panic. But there's an urgency to got to correct some things and get better. We're going to line up and play next week. We were 1-1 or 0-2. We got to play 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time. That's all we can control. And that's what the conversation's about.
Just a friendly reminder, if you would like to participate in the Smacking Off podcast, we'd like to hear from you, fellow Smackers. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages. You can email me at maddenShannon@toothfairy.com. Yes, that's a real email. Or you can call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. That's 304-508-2248. And as always, fuck your team.
And, we've kind of gone over this over the last few years where every week it's like, okay, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And really it wasn't until, we about beat Bama the previous year where people was like, all right, they're a believer. And then we came in the next year and, we're dropping in the polls. They're not good. They're not great. And then people could, well, you should have lost to NC State. You should have lost this team. You should have lost that team. It's not a video game. Football is very, very hard to play, and it's even harder to win at. Right. So it's like, you got to give these 18, 19-year-old kids a chance to grow. Off the 15, we had to replace 9 defensive starters. Last year, we had to replace 8. This year, we return 8. So it's like, give the chance, the offense a chance to grow. Now, my only question is how will our offensive line perform against Virginia Tech's defensive line? Right. They do have a good defensive line.
Yes, they do. With any team, I really want to see what happens when they get in a tough game on the road. Now, they've had a tough game at home, and they performed great. They sacked the opposing team 11 times. Definitely great defense. I want to see what they do on the road. If they go to Virginia Tech and win, I really feel like they're going to win out.
Yeah, much as people want to hate on Louisville, a lot of people picked Louisville to beat us when we went up there, and then and if it hadn't have been for, us putting in our third and fourth stringers on defense, up until the third quarter, Lamar Jackson had less than 200 yards and touchdown and pick 6.
Definitely controlled him through the whole game. If you remember correctly, he was being talked about as the leading Heisman candidate before that game.
Yep.
You haven't heard anything since, have you?
That down.
No, yeah, that talk was shut completely down.
He basically had to pad his stats against that. Had, Dabo not taken his foot off Louisville's throat, that could have easily been a 50-something to 7 game.
Right.
At Louisville. And, if people go back and they watch the previous games before that, they will notice you'll notice the difference in the play calling. Even look at Louisville's play calling and look at Boston College. Dabo, I believe, went in the mindset with that game, and we're going to open up the playbook. You just seen, even Bryant being under duress. He was under duress against Louisville. So it was, they were actually getting on him in the backfield and stuff, but the play calling, I think, is definitely different. We ran the ball almost 60 times against Boston College. We're not doing that against Virginia Tech.
Right.
So it's, we'll be in there. He'll open up the playbook more. It won't just be a couple of screens, a couple of throws down the field. He's going to hit the quick slants. He's going to do the post. He's going to do the seam. Something we didn't do against Boston College.
Well, I want John to jump in here real quick because, again, we still are on the also want to talk about FSU's upcoming schedule as far as where you see some challenges. Obviously, you don't really see Wake Forest as much of a threat. I think everybody's pretty much in agreement here.
No, I think he actually said something different than that.
What?
I find every team has a stretch. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Wake Forest is better than NC State. John Walford, their quarterback, is a 3-year starter right now, and he has Dave Clawson's system well pat. And a name to keep out for Saturday is Matt Colburn. He's the running back, and he was Mr. South Carolina football in high school 2 years ago. And funny thing about him, he was a Louisville commit the day before signing day, and Petrino pulled his scholarship, which led him to Wake Forest. I think he's going to have a huge game against Florida State. I think things are going to be shaky. Wake Forest, and you got Miami the week after. That's a
let's let's run the schedule down. 9 games remaining. You're at Wake Forest this weekend. Miami comes to Tallahassee the week after.
The next 3 teams are a combined 12-0, right? Or excuse me, a combined 10-0 or 11-0. I can't remember how many games Miami's won.
Miami's
2-0.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're combined 10-0. And
now
Duke
you got
and Wake
Duke
Forest,
and
it's not like they're not battle tested.
You got Duke and Miami playing this weekend, so one of those will drop a game. But
Right.
still, it's still going to be the next 3, like you said. It's not out of the question for FSU to lose all 3 of them.
Right, and it's just like Wake Forest. They went up to Boston College and beat the brakes off of Boston College. I think they beat them more impressive than Clemson, and obviously you can't compare games like that.
Right.
But, I mean, fact is fact. I mean, Wake Forest had Boston College pinned down from the start of the game. I really don't see any gimme wins besides Boston College, Syracuse, and Delaware State.
You got to believe that FSU is going to play the angriest game of the year on October 21st when Louisville comes to town. But
you would believe that, yes.
But still, you still got Lamar Jackson there.
Well, I guess also it depends on where they're at as far as team morale goes, how they navigate these next 3 teams that we're talking about.
I think they're going to be angry.
Pissy.
Yeah.
Pissy britches.
But they're not used to being 0-2. I think they're going to react.
I think they'll be very angry against Louisville, but angry and passion really doesn't matter when you're getting beat by schematics. And each spread team FSU's played since 2014, starting with the Oregon Ducks, has at least put up 30 points against FSU. The Louisville, the Oregon, and any other spread team that they've played.
Yeah, that don't sound too nice. It really don't. Well, thank you for that cheery broadcast or forecast.
Right.
FSU, you're cooked. John Cooper said so. Right, you heard it here first. So when they go completely undefeated for the rest of the season, we're going to give you his address a little bit later in the broadcast. No, I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that to you. We ain't got nothing but love in our hearts here at the Smacking All Podcast.
Man, we need to get John and David back on Clemson Florida State week.
Oh, absolutely, fellas. Are you up for that?
Sure. Like I said, I'll talk to anybody but when it comes to football at any time. It's
well, I would prefer that both of you get drunk and do a lot of cocaine before you call in, because I want some. Come on, man. We want a bloodbath.
If we lose to Wake Forest, you guys might not see me.
Don't be that way.
You're gonna log off for a few weeks.
All right, so let's get them both to give a prediction for their team this week.
Absolutely, John, you're first.
I'm going to go Florida State 24, Wake Forest 21.
All right,
I got it. Clemson 27, Virginia Tech 23.
That's it. Ooh, that's conservative. I like that. That's gonna be a good game to watch. Sounds like
y'all actually got me wanting to watch both games now.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think that is where both our defenses will kind of be a little slow going, and then it'll just kind of pick up towards the end. But I don't see Josh Jackson. I believe would have to play out of his mind to really. I mean, he would just have to go out there from the get go and just constantly, move the ball and put a lot of pressure on our offense, forcing them to score a bunch of points early for me, in my opinion, for Virginia Tech to win this game.
Dare I say, guys, that by the eyeball test, that Virginia Tech and Clemson are the fastest teams in the conference.
I mean, the thing is, we don't have a lot to look at. I mean, Florida State's defense played fast. The problem is just the scheme. I don't. It's like I don't know what Kelly's doing out there. You know what I mean? It's like it almost kind of reminds me when we had Kevin Steele. It's like, what are you doing, dude? You got all this NFL talent, and you should be top 5, top 10 defense every year with all that talent. But it's like, wow.
Right. Let's see. And I would like to point something out. It might open a can of worms, but if Lane Kiffin calls that Alabama-Florida State game, what do you guys think the score was?
And we are back with the Smacking Off podcast. I want to talk about some of the upcoming games since we've had so much conversation about games gone by. Of course, we've got a couple Friday night games. Let's start off with Miami versus Duke. The Hurricanes versus the Blue Devils. Miami's favored by 5.5. Doug, what are your thoughts on this game?
It's a hard game to read. Duke looks really good. First off, Duke looks better than they normally do at this point of the season. Miami, I don't have a good feel for. This game is.
I've only played 2 games. They are 2-0.
This game is at Duke. I'm going to go with Mark Richt here. Miami wins and they cover. Miami wins by a touchdown.
USC versus Washington State. The Trojans are favored by 5.5 in that one as well.
Yep, on the road.
On the road. Washington State is 4-0, as is Southern California.
USC looks like they're flirting with dropping a game somewhere. So I'm going to go with Washington State at home.
Ooh.
To make this really close. USC by a point.
Wow. That's going to be a nail biter. I'm going to definitely check that one out.
So take Washington State in the 5.5.
Mm-hmm. Saturday. This game right here it's already got the SEC stirred up pretty good. Georgia, who is 4-0, and a lot of people are talking about as an actual legitimate top 10 team. Seems like Kirby's recruiting, which he's been recruiting absolutely just at an amazing pace down there. Apparently, it's starting to pay off. Georgia is favored by 3.5 in this game at Tennessee. And I've got to bring this up because we brought this up on the last broadcast. The Tennessee-UMass game. UMass is arguably one of the worst teams in college football right now at 0-5. And we predicted on this show that if it was a close game by any stretch of the imagination, that Butch would probably not have a job too terribly much longer. The score on that game was 17-15?
17-13,
17-13. It might as well be 17-16, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible. I mean, that's, does Tennessee have any chance in this game?
They've got a chance because they're playing at home, but not much of a chance. Georgia is playing really good on the defensive side of the ball.
Is that line right, though? Georgia's favored by 3.5 points?
Well, I think it's right because it's at Tennessee, and that's going to give them a boost a little bit. Vegas figures that home field gives you 3 points. So if they were playing at a neutral site, then they would Georgia would be favored by 10 probably.
Yeah.
I like Georgia by 10. Speaking of 10, I'm looking at somewhere about 27-17. Tennessee, they don't have the firepower.
Yeah, I just don't see this game being close at all, particularly with and we talked about this earlier in the show, with the Georgia-Mississippi State matchup last week. Oh, mashup, I should say. Yep. Boy, that was horrible. The Bulldogs got screwed in that one. That's, of course, the Cowbell Bulldogs.
Yep.
Okay, and speaking of the Cowbell Bulldogs, how about the Cowbell Bulldogs versus the Auburn Tigers? Both of them are 3-1. Auburn's favored by 9 in that matchup because that, again, is at Auburn.
I like Auburn. 24-17, somewhere in that neighborhood. Mississippi State covers, but Auburn wins.
And yeah, again, the Auburn is fielding a really, as they did last year, a really, really solid defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't expect Nick Fitzgerald to, because it really seems like he hasn't gained any kind of momentum this season. With the exception of the LSU game, and now I'm beginning to suspect that maybe that's just more of a statement about where LSU's at in the season. Versus, a true indicator of who Mississippi State is. Because, again, go back to that Georgia game. That was just ugly. That was just, yuck. Okay, next up, we've got Clemson versus Virginia Tech. Both of those teams are 4-0. Clemson's playing on a completely different level. Right up there around with Bama and, well, I was going to say Oklahoma, but we'll get to that in a minute. Clemson's favored by 5.5 in this one.
I like Tech to upset Clemson at home. If Clemson gets past Tech, I think they walk into the CFP. They're going to win out. But I think that Virginia Tech's got enough. They've got a really good wide receiver.
Going through our notes here. We have notes scattered out all over our desk right now. In preparation for this broadcast.
The wide receiver's name's Phillips. I don't remember his first. Cam Phillips, actually.
Can't believe you forgot that. That's your last name.
Yeah, that's how it actually came to me.
You're getting old.
But anyway, he's the leading receiver in the country right now, production-wise, yardage. Is in the Heisman list, actually. I think he has a big game. I think Virginia Tech wins a close game, so... Clemson's favored by 5. Take Virginia Tech and get the 5.5. Take Virginia Tech and get the 5.5.
Wow. All right. Ole Miss at Alabama, and this is almost laughable. The line on this game, because if you'll remember, Ole Miss in the past few years. Well, they've kind of edged Alabama Crimson Tide out twice,
and brought it right down to the brink last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Bama is favored by 28 points in this game. Do you bet that line?
No.
I
mean, I didn't think that Alabama would win by 18. Was it 18.5 this past weekend over Vanderbilt, and they ended up killing them. But 28 is still a high line. I think Bama probably wins 37-10, so they don't quite cover the line.
Well, especially when we're talking about Ole
two
Miss.
SEC schools. I mean, if we're talking Alabama and Mercer or something, then yeah. But no.
Now, bear in mind that wasn't Auburn and Mercer, but
right.
Go ahead. And we've also got our other one of our has popped up on our live championships. Northern Illinois at San Diego State. San Diego State's favored in this one by 13, and I think I probably know why.
Yep, Rashad Penny.
Yep.
But, yeah, San Diego State, it's at San Diego State. San Diego State will win by 10.
And they're the line, of course, is 13.
Yeah, so take Northern Illinois in the 13, and you probably come out on top.
Well, there you have it. There's our picks for the week. If you have any questions or comments, you can always hit us up on our Facebook page, Smacking Off, or you can hit us up on the page, Doug's page, X's and O's. And, as always, you can give us a call and actually talk to us with your voice. What a novel concept. The number is 304-508-BAIT. That's 304-508-2248.
not. I don't think we executed at a real high level today in any of the three phases, to be honest with you.
Before I'd like to say congratulations to North Carolina State. I thought they competed very well in the game. Got a very nice football team, did the things they had to do to win in critical moments of the game, and played well.
Okay, as you can imagine, very heartbreaking loss for us and our team. I love our team's commitment.
Well, that wasn't near as fun as the last few we played. Really it's pretty simple. When you lose the turnover battle, I think we were -2, and we didn't play very smart and very disciplined, and really we got out-coached.
Losers Corner.
We are back. We are talking with our friend who was on last week, Sean Devine, whose Notre Dame Fighting Irish whooped the Michigan State Spartans, as he predicted that would happen. Now is your moment for redemption. Let's talk about it.
Well, I predicted actually we'd win, but only by 3, and it turns out we really dominated, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which I was kind of shocked to see, and we were able to actually pass the ball. It was nice. Certainly Michigan State made a lot of mistakes with the turnovers. That's what killed them. They committed 5 turnovers, and one of them was the pick 6, and we were up at that point 14-0, and it was off to the races from there.
Absolutely. Are you wishing that you had put more money on the game? No comment.
No. There's still things to be worked out. A lot of things. I mean, we gave up a big run to a slow-footed quarterback, so no, there's still a lot of things to be worked out before for our next big test.
And what is your next big test? Let's look at the schedule here.
Pulling up the schedule now.
We got Miami of Ohio MAC team this weekend, so that should be a breeze.
At NC. At North Carolina.
And we're at North Carolina, and I'm not super familiar with them, though I did see they lost to Duke, so that gives me some confidence there.
Duke's actually balling right now, man. Duke's actually playing some pretty decent ball. We actually talked about this earlier on the podcast. Both Duke and Wake Forest have kind of surprised a few folks this season. NC's one of those teams that always seems to have a really good defense put together. Offensively can be hit or miss depending on who they're playing. I feel pretty good about Notre Dame's chances in that one.
Yeah, we should. I think as long as we're, and again, like the Michigan State game this past weekend, and the other Sean, when we were on together last week, it was, could they stop our rushing attack, and they couldn't. They couldn't stop the rush, and that's it's an old school philosophy that I
shut it down.
That I still kind of subscribe to. That Lou Holtz kind of ingrained in me when he was our coach back in the 80s and 90s. Football is a kind of a simple game at the college level. If you can run the football, stop the other team from running the football, and don't commit penalties and turnovers, 90% of the time you're going to have a chance to win the game. And that's what we've kind of been doing this year. In our only loss to Georgia, they did it just a little bit better than us, beat us by a point, but they kind of follow the same philosophy. And right now, with the way we're playing, we should get through Miami of Ohio, get through North Carolina, and then we have a bye week, and our next big test is at home against Southern California and the Trojans.
Yep.
Well, what's the magic number for Kelly to keep his job this season? Because, he did enter the season on a hot seat. He was on a lot of hot seat lists. He's definitely coached his way kind of off that a little bit, but what happens if
final record, since we're going to win 6 and go to a bowl game.
Is that good enough? Is that good enough for him to keep his job?
Well, no. I'm just saying, I'm already speculating we're going to win 6 games, which is enough to get you in a bowl game. But for him, final record, it's going to have to be 10-3.
So even if he squeaks by, and let's say he gets he goes 9-3, and he's able to squeak by.
Well, 9-3, you're talking now he's in a bowl game. So he's 10-3 is a lot better than 9-4.
Yep. Yeah, true.
9-4, that's going to be that's a toss up at that point. It depends on who we play in the bowl game, and if we win if we lose, how do we lose? Is it an Alabama-style destruction, or is it, we lost on a last-second field goal?
Smacking Off invites you to join us on the podcast. If you have an opinion on an upcoming game, some commentary on your conference, or want to roll with one of your fellow smackers on air, hit us up. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages, email me at maddenshannon@toothfairy.com, or call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
I try to, so when I'm watching at home, when I'm not on the road, I got 4 TVs set up, and, I got the Notre Dame game on the big one, and then the other smaller ones, obviously, I always have the SEC game on CBS. Kind of miss Vern this year.
I don't.
The voice of the SEC.
I do not miss Vern Lundquist whatsoever. His hatred for the University of Alabama shone through on every single game that he called for them. Fuck Vern. I hope that he's choking on a sandwich right now. Which he probably is.
He's an SMU guy. Give him a break. They've been terrible since Doak Walker was there in the 50s. I guess Eric Dickerson, but we're talking about the NCAA.
I kind of do miss Vern mispronouncing people's names.
Yeah, having those senior moments, live on live TV, and what were we talking about? What game is it?
I'll never forget one time he was talking about. Go ahead. Anyway, he was talking about.
You guys are old enough to remember, Saturday night in the SEC on ESPN with Ron Franklin and Mike Gottfried. I love those two, and those two were awesome. And it's a shame that Ron Franklin isn't calling games anymore. But
I liked Mark. Mark was, he was a coach at Alabama.
I kind of miss Brando too. Where did he go?
Fuck.
He's over at Smoothwater with a member guest playing golf. Tim Brando, I think he was doing like a Fox Sports, I caught him doing like a Colorado State, Idaho game last year, I think.
Okay, so he's out west.
That's a good place.
Well, he's with Fox. He lives in the South, but I think Fox has him doing either the Big 12 or Mountain West or Pac, whatever games Fox and Fox Sports 1 gets,
Right.
Whatever's left over. Well, at least
exactly,
we're talking about down the scale there.
I was shocked to hear that the Notre Dame Michigan State game was on Fox. I guess that's a new one for me.
That happens sometimes. Well,
and it was a night game, which is very, very rare in this rivalry, series that Notre Dame Michigan State. Even though we're not going to play for 9 years, which is kind of really sad because
that does suck. Yeah,
it's a little bit more sad for them than it is for y'all right now.
Because you have
got a young team,
that's cool. Because you have
really
9 years to talk about how you own that ass, and straight up own that ass. No two ways around it. It wasn't a close game by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, to be fair, Michigan State's got a lot of young players. They're breaking in, and maybe not this year or next year, but 2 years from now they should be. And that's kind of Michigan State's historical kind of thing. They're good for 2 or 3 years, and those players move on, and then it's a rebuild because, they have a tough time recruiting, and they only really recruit the Midwest. Where Notre Dame, I was just looking at our recruiting upcoming for 18, and the most we have from any state is 2 players. That's 2 from Florida, and we have, I think, 12
There's
or
that
13
theme again, recruiting from
represented.
Florida. We actually spoke about this earlier in the broadcast. So, yeah, it's...
Oh, yeah, if you're going to...
Florida's football state.
Yep, everybody's got to dip down into Florida.
You have to.
Yeah, and Notre Dame's one of those, it's, you're talking about a blue blood program, just as Alabama is. There's 8 blue bloods.
Can recruit anywhere that they want to. The Notre Dame name alone opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, that name alone will get you at least talking to mom and dad and the kid, and now the one thing that holds us back is the academic piece.
Yeah.
That's it is what it is, and that's never going to change. So,
you have to wonder recruiting at Notre Dame. How many Google searches are done by recruits for Catholicism? For Notre Dame, because you got to think about it. That they have a very wide recruiting base.
And the funny thing about that is you're not required to be Catholic to go to to go to Notre Dame. Which, I think most people, when they think about Notre Dame, they think Catholicism and think it's a mandatory kind of thing, but that's not the case at all. I mean, for example, everybody likes to make jokes about him, but Manti Te'o is a Mormon, and he's still a Mormon. He's a devout Mormon, and he went to Notre Dame.
Yep.
It is not a requirement to be a Catholic to attend Notre Dame.
I don't know. Mormons do have some weird dating habits, though. I've known a couple in my private life. But anyway, that's a story for another day. All right, well, Sean, we've got a book. We really appreciate you coming back on, getting your redemption. Really quick, right before you go, give me the score of the Notre Dame Miami of Ohio game this weekend.
Notre Dame 48, Miami of Ohio 14.
Woo! That's an ass whipping right there. Well, man, we really appreciate you being back on, and we will hope to talk to you soon.
Maybe USC Notre Dame week.
I got one more quick prediction.
Talk to me.
Real quick. Georgia 34, Tennessee 13. Butch Jones doesn't go back to Knoxville with a job. Mark it down.
I love that.
This week's Life Championship brought to you by Bad Month Tires. You don't have the swag for Goodyear, so aim for the middle with Bad Month Tires, the most economical tire money can buy.
The
Life
Championship.
Top 10 4
September 20.
10 Northern Illinois
9.
LSU
8.
Texas
7.
Mississippi
6.
Oregon
5.
Auburn
4.
Tennessee
3.
Texas
2.
Cal
1.
Florida
I'll open with the atmosphere. I thought was awesome. It's what the atmosphere is supposed to be in the SEC and college football. We had student section full, crowd made an impact on the game, had them jump off sides early, and I can't thank our fan base enough for coming out and supporting these guys. Obviously got off to a fast start, which I think is important in those kind of games. Every game's different. This game was kind of different, Thought the kids played real hard. We're going to have to do it again next week because we got another good opponent, and that's just the way the SEC is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined with our next smacker, Mr. Derrick Myers. What's going on, Derrick?
Nothing much. Trying to fight this head cold.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that going around right now. Really quick, before we get started, and this is something we're going to start doing with all of our smackers, rep some of the groups that you participate in on Facebook. Your favorites.
College. Oh, that would probably be SEC Smack.
Yeah, I like SEC Smack. David Marshall's got he's got a solid product on his hands over there. Dear friend of mine is one of the admins. He actually grew up. We grew up together and went to high school together. Bobby Wesson.
Very cool guy.
Yeah, that cat is. Man, he's always been like that ever since he was a kid. But anyways, okay, well, good. What are we here to talk about this evening, good sir?
Let's talk about Mississippi State versus Auburn, how we want to probably get raped like we did against Georgia because we got a triple option quarterback who can't pass for shit.
So you really think that Auburn is going to stick a fist up Mississippi State's ass?
Oh, yeah, I think their defense is about, I wouldn't say just as good as Georgia because I haven't really seen them play anybody other than Clemson, which they did pretty solid against Clemson.
They really did, particularly with how Clemson is playing ball right now. And before we get too far into this conversation, we have to point out one thing. We invited several prominent Auburn smackers on some of the smack groups to come on the broadcast and let's talk about this game and break it down like our other smackers that have appeared here that had balls, and all of them declined. How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel like I got set between my legs.
Absolutely. Yes, sir, you do, because I hear your voice on this broadcast, and I damn sure don't hear any Albies. So, Albies, this is for y'all. You have an open invitation to talk about your team, just like we all get to talk about our team. But at the end of the day, we all come to the same conclusion that Auburn sucks. Okay, now, let's talk about it. Do you really honestly think that Mississippi State has any chance in this game whatsoever? Now, let's think about it for half a second. The LSU game, I mean, you know, the national expectations just shot through the roof overnight.
But it was against a sorry-ass coach and a team that wasn't prepared.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, let's not forget Mississippi State has won 2 of the last 3 games in this series.
Yeah.
And for all you, Vegas fellas out there, folks that can legally gamble, we're broadcasting from Birmingham, Alabama, where gambling is illegal. Bullshit. State is also 4-1 against the spread over the last 5 meetings against the Auburn Tigers.
And no matter how this game goes down, whether State wins or Auburn wins, I will tell you that the line is pretty high. What is the line? I think it's 9.
Yeah, it's right at 9. It was at like 10.5 and it
dropped.
No
disrespect.
I like Mississippi State, and I like Mississippi State in that much points. I really think the game will be close.
As long as we don't play like we did last weekend.
Yeah.
Our defense got punched in the mouth. Offense was running around looking stupid. It was very depressing. I got a stepson that's a Georgia fan, so now I got to run around with the damn Georgia hat on.
Oh, no. You didn't bet on that one, did you?
Well, he wanted to do jerseys, and me and him don't wear the same size, so I was like, no, we'll do a hat because a hat's a hell of a lot cheaper than a damn jersey.
True, and you can always take the hat off. You got to take your hat off when you go indoors, right?
Yeah. And I just give him the hat, and he, fit it whenever. Damn jersey now, that's like, what, $60?
And that's tough, too. I mean, it's not so bad wearing an opposing team's hat, but the jersey, oh, man. That's just it's something you can't take enough showers to get that off of you.
No.
An interesting stat right here that jumps out at me is that Auburn has given up 16 sacks on the season. There's only 3 teams out of the 129 FBS teams that have given up more sacks than Auburn have. Does State have a shot to get to Stidham?
Oh, yeah. I think our defensive line is a hell of a lot better than what it was last year. I think we're all the way around.
This could be something to watch.
Last year.
This could be This could definitely be something a matchup to watch in the game because Auburn has definitely given up the sacks this year.
And they give up turnovers as well.
Right.
Who was it that played Mercury or whatever?
Mercer, yeah, we talked about that on the last broadcast. They gave up the ball 5 times in that game against freaking Mercer. And the funny thing is locally when we pulled up all of the threads and all the Auburn hype about what a great, almost accurate performance that Stidham had in that game. Everybody kind of shut up, except for a few news outlets, shut up about the fact that they turned the ball over against Mercer 5 times. Seeing if we had an Auburn smacker on right now, they could be talking some shit about what I've got to say, but Auburn fans have no balls.
No, I ain't want to paint a picture like my team's undefeated, well, of course we're not undefeated, but, we're the second coming of Bama. Even after we beat LSU, I was like, well, let's just hold up before we start, pumping the high horse up.
I think the intensity level will be high for State. And
you want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions for a fan base, though, to come off that huge win against LSU and then get raped between the hedges. That's pretty tough.
But I still think
got a DNA kit on the team bus trying to stuck it in first.
But I still think this Mississippi State team is not done.
No, we're not going to finish last like everyone was predicting us. Thank God for Texas A&M and Arkansas and Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Yeah, Arkansas, man.
That Texas A&M and Arkansas game was like a Pac-12 mixed with a Big Ten.
Yep.
There was no defense whatsoever. I can't see how your coach still has a job.
Yeah, but I think Bielema is he's in his last days.
Well, I was kind of shocked that there's still a lot of Arkansas fans backing him.
I don't know why. I mean, he's not doing great on an Arkansas level, which
no.
Arkansas they're happy if they can win 9 games consistently, and he's not going to do that.
Yeah. You're talking about a career coach who could do something like that.
It's the same for Texas A&M. Texas A&M should be a powerhouse right now, given what's going on in the state of Texas.
That and just the money and the resources that they have.
Yeah, well, their big brothers are all falling apart around them other than TCU. Like, the Longhorns has been down and out, going on, 4 years now?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Baylor, they're pretty much done. The hypocrite Christian school that's going to sit there and put rape before, football. Or put football before students getting raped and allowing their players to get away with it.
The players were putting rape before football, and the school was putting football before rape. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a good meme right there.
We're
gonna have to dank that one up a little bit later.
But as far as going back to the Auburn and State game, I ain't gonna get my hopes up because there's a lot we still got to work on. I think we'll give a good fight. It's that Auburn's defense. They're not really they're pretty much a lockdown defense, just like Georgia. I'm very impressed with their defense. I don't think their defense gets enough respect.
They really don't. And I think it's probably because there's been so much of a spotlight on Auburn's offense. Primarily because Gus Malzahn came into the coaching gig at Auburn as a, offensive guru that somehow single-handedly willed with, Cam Newton and a very underrated, I think, on that team, Nick Fairley. Oh God, that guy he was incredible. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I mean, they just had kind of lightning struck, and then it was pretty much over with. All of that money was spent.
What Auburn fans
but the
need
church
to do,
looks great though.
What Auburn fans need to do, and of course they got Heisman winners, and I'm a Mississippi State fan. I can't say nothing about Heisman winners. They need to stop.
You're going to be living in the home of Bo Jackson when you move out that way.
You absolutely
yeah.
But Auburn fans need to stop saying every quarterback is a Heisman winner. That kills me. I don't get that. This kid comes in from Baylor, and he's instantly a Heisman contender. The guy before him was a Heisman contender. The quarterback that got the same name as a snowboarder was a Heisman contender. And it's like, you got some. Why do you have to put every quarterback up there on that level? Just wait for it to play out.
Yeah, their snowboarder quarterback, last time I checked, had been exited from the team. We talked about that on the last episode. So Auburn's not very deep at QB right now either.
No. So that's another thing to look at. If Stidham goes down in this game,
which if he keeps getting sacked as many times and hurried and pressured and that offensive line doesn't protect him, that's a very, very real scenario.
Absolutely, and you're going to have somebody come in who does not have experience.
Especially when you get in the heart of the SEC schedule, when you start meeting the big boys who's going to bust through that and just put your quarterback on his ass every time he gets the ball. That was our biggest problem last year. We didn't have really a good offensive line. We got an okay offensive line this year. Last year, every time the ball was snapped, we had 3 defenders in the backfield ready to kill our quarterback.
Absolutely. Well, man, we really appreciate you coming on to the broadcast with us. And, of course, after the game, we're going to, if Mississippi State, particularly if they win, we'd like to bring you back on and kind of give us a quick highlight, win or lose, man. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Can you give us a prediction?
Yeah, definitely give us a prediction for the game.
Positive, 34-24, Mississippi State. Negative, 37-10, Auburn.
Woo! That's a hell of a swing. All right.
It all depends what team comes off the bus.
Let's hope the one that beat LSU comes off the bus.
Amen to
I
that.
hope so.
Just a friendly reminder, if you would like to participate in the Smacking Off podcast, we'd like to hear from you, fellow smackers. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages. You can email me at maddenShannon@toothfairy.com. Yes, that's a real email. Or you can call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. That's 304-508-2248. And as always, fuck your team. And we are back. One thing that we've got to talk about, and this is actually a story that broke today while we're in the middle of putting this episode together, is the NCAA basketball, which I know this is we kind of focus on football a little bit here, but we wanted to talk about this because this is a really, really, really big story. 4 assistant coaches have been accused of taking bribes between about $13,000 and $100,000 to try to get players to hire this fellow. Apparently, he's some kind of middleman, one of these middleman agent guys that trying to drum up some business, and quote unquote loaned these assistant coaches money, and they could offset how much they owed on their loan by convincing college players, blue chip college players that are apparently on a path or trajectory to go to the NBA, to use this guy as an agent, as a sports agent. And in the process, cash was being paid to actual players, and they apparently he was a recruiter for ASM at one point in time, a fellow by the name of Christian Dawkins, and he was fired there for using a player's credit card. And then here's where it starts to get sticky. Chuck Person, who had a wonderful, illustrious career in the NBA, of Auburn University, Lamont Evans from OSU, Oklahoma State University, Emmanuel Richardson of the University of Arizona, and Anthony Bland of USC. And bear in mind, these are all assistant coaches. The FBI has been involved in this, and that's who actually took them down. But here's where it's going to get sticky, and a lot of things are pointing to the fact that these assistant coaches are just the beginning of this story. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to look out for. Something we're going to be probably talking about in future broadcasts, because already there are so many names that are popping up, and not only that, but the implication that it's going to have on universities' athletic programs. ADs that, in fact, here locally, we're already seeing stories about Jay Jacobs, the Auburn University athletic director, possibly maybe on the hot seat over this, particularly hot on the heels of a Title IX investigation of their softball coach. So we haven't even seen what the NCAA, because, of course, now this is a criminal investigation. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Also, the shoe company Adidas is involved in this as well. So I mean, this is nuts. This is a really
Don't forget,
huge
this
story.
is just the first day of the story too. Where's it going to be tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, once we start seeing head coaches' names pop up, and the net grow even wider and find out that more schools were involved than just these 4 that I checked off. And I believe that's already the case.
Yep.
Seems like I've heard on some of the news outlets that up to 10 schools have been implicated, and possibly more. The FBI has been very quick to point out the fact that they just apprehended these assistant coaches, and they're basically have them in a room talking and naming names, trying to get out of trouble, and snitching. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Yep.
So if what we said just pissed you off, well, you can always give us a call. 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
Smack.